Yeah, what's going on, y'all? And today we're going to be continuing here reading the entire Bible series. And, yeah, this is Leviticus. And, hopefully we have no interruptions like we did a couple videos ago. So, yeah, let's go. Alright, so this is chapter 6. We're going to 6 to 11. Yeah, guilt offerings. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, when anyone sins and acts unfaithfully against the Lord by deceiving his neighbor, companion, associate, in regard to a deposit or a security entrust to him, or through robbery, or if he has extorted from his neighborhood, or has found what was lost and lied about it, and sworn falsely so that he sins in regard to any one of the things a man may do, then he has sinned and is guilty. He shall restore what he took by robbery, or what he got by extortion, or the deposit which was entrusted to him, or the lost thing which he found, or anything about which he has sworn falsely. He shall not only restore it in full, but shall add to it 1/5 more. He shall give it to one to the one whom it belongs on the day of his guilt offering. Then he shall bring to the priest his guilt offering to the Lord, and ram without blemish from the flock, as valued by you, as a guilt offering. The priest shall make an atonement for him before the Lord, and he will be forgiven for any one of the things which he may have done to incur guilt. The priest's part in the offerings. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, command Aaron and his sons, saying, this is the law of the burnt offering. The burnt offering shall remain on the hearth that is on the altar all night until morning, and the fire is to be kept burning on the altar. The priest is to put on his linen robe with his linen undergarments next to his body. Then he shall take up the ashes of the burnt offering which the fire has consumed on the altar, and put them beside the altar. Then he shall take off his garments and put on something else, and take the ashes outside the camp to a ceremonially clean place. The fire on the altar shall be kept burning. It shall not be allowed to go out. The priest shall burn wood on it every morning, and he shall arrange the burnt offering on it, and offer the fat portions of the peace offerings up in smoke on it. The fire shall be burning continually on the altar. It shall not be allowed to go out. Now this is the law of the grain offering. The sons of Aaron shall present it before the Lord in front of the altar. One of them shall make up from it a handful of the fine flour of the grain offering, with its oil and all the incense that is on the grain offering, and he shall offer it up in smoke on the altar, a sweet and soothing aroma, as the memorial offering to the Lord. What is left of it Aaron and his sons are to eat. It shall be eaten as unleavened bread in a holy place. They are to eat it in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. It shall not be baked with leaven, which represents corruption or sin. I have given as their share of my offerings by fire. It is most holy, like the sin offering and the guilt offering. Every male among the sons of Aaron may eat it as his share. It is a permanent ordinance throughout your generations, from offering by fire to the Lord. Whatever touches them will be consecrated, ceremonially clean. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, this is the offering which Aaron and his sons are to present to the Lord on the day when he is anointed. The tenth of an ephah of fine flour as a regular grain offering, half of it in the morning and half of it in the evening. It shall be prepared with oil on a griddle. When it is well stirred, you shall bring it. You shall present the grain offering in baked pieces as a sweet and soothing aroma to the Lord. The priest from among the sons of Aaron, who is anointed in his place, shall offer it by a permanent statute. It shall be entirely offered up in smoke to the Lord. So every grain offering of the priest shall be burned entirely; it shall not be eaten. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to Aaron and his sons, saying, This is the law of the sin offering. The sin offering shall be killed before the Lord in the same place where the burnt offering is killed. It is most holy. The priest who offers it for sin shall eat it. It shall be eaten in a holy place, in the courtyard of the tent of meeting. Whatever touches its meat will become consecrated, ceremonially clean. When any of its blood splashes on a garment, you shall wash what splashes on it in a holy place. Also, the earthenware vessel in which it was boiled shall be broken. And if it was boiled in a bronze vessel, then that vessel shall be scorned and rinsed in water. Every male among the priests may eat this offering; it is most holy. But no sin offering from which any of the blood is brought into the tent of meeting to make atonement in the holy place shall be eaten; it shall be completely burned in fire. All right. All right. The priest's part in the offerings. This is the law of the guilt offering. It is most holy. In the place where they kill the burnt offering, they are to kill the guilt offering, and he shall sprinkle its blood around on the altar. Then he shall offer all its fat, the fat tail, and the fat that covers the entrails, and the 2 kidneys with the fat that is on them at the loins, and the lobe of the liver, which he shall remove with the kidneys. The priest shall offer them up in smoke on the altar as an offering by fire to the Lord. It is a guilt offering. Every male among the priests may eat it. It shall be eaten in a holy place; it is most holy. The guilt offering is like the sin offering. There is one law for both of them. The priest who makes atonement with it shall have it for himself. The priest who presents any man's burnt offering shall have for himself the hide of the burnt offering which he has presented. Likewise, every grain offering that is baked in the oven and everything that is prepared in a pan or on a griddle shall belong to the priest who presents it. Every grain offering mixed with olive oil or dry, all the sons of Aaron may have, one as well as another. Now this is the law of the sacrifice of peace offerings, which shall be presented to the Lord. If one offers it as a sacrificial meal of thanksgiving, then along with the sacrifice of thanksgiving he shall offer unleavened cakes mixed with oil, and unleavened wafers spread with oil, and cakes of fine flour mixed with oil. With the sacrifice of his peace offering for thanksgiving, he shall present his offering with cakes of leavened bread. Of this he shall present 1 cake from each offering as a contribution to the Lord. It shall belong to the priest who sprinkles the blood of the peace offerings. The meat of the sacrifice of thanksgiving presented as a peace offering shall be eaten on the day that it is offered. None of it shall be left until morning. But if the sacrifice of his offering is a vow or a free will offering, it shall be eaten on the day that he offers his sacrifice, and on the next day which remains of it may be eaten. But what is left over from the meat of the sacrifice on the 3rd day shall be completely burned in fire. If any of the meat of the sacrifice of his peace offerings is ever eaten on the 3rd day, then he will not be accepted, and the one who brought it will not be credited with it. It shall be an abhorrent, offensive thing. The one who eats it shall bear his own guilt. The meat that comes in contact with anything that is unclean shall not be eaten. It shall be burned in the fire. As for other meat, Everyone who is ceremonially clean may eat it, but the one who eats meat from the sacrifice of peace offerings, which belong to the Lord, in his uncleanness, that person shall be cut off from his people, excluding him from the atonement made for them. When anyone touches any unclean thing, human uncleanness, or any unclean animal, or any unclean detestable thing, and eats the meat of the sacrifice of the Lord's peace offering, that person shall be cut off from his people, excluding him from the atonement made for them. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, You shall not eat any fat from an ox, a sheep, or a goat. The fat of an animal which dies of natural causes, and the fat of one which is torn to pieces by a predator, may be put to any other use, but under no circumstance are you to eat it. For whoever eats the fat of the animal from which an offering by fire is presented to the Lord, that person who eats shall be cut off from his people, excluding him from the atonement made for them. Moreover, you are not to eat any blood of any kind, whether of bird or animal, in any of your dwelling places. Whoever eats any blood, that person shall be cut off from his people. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the children of Israel, saying, He who offers the sacrifice of his peace offering to the Lord shall bring his offering to the Lord from the sacrifice of his peace offerings. With his own hands he is to bring offering by the fire to the Lord. He shall bring the fat with the breast, so that the breast may be presented as a wave offering before the Lord. The priest shall offer up the fat and smoke on the altar, but the breast shall be for Aaron and his sons. You shall give the right thigh to the priest as a contribution from the sacrifices of your peace offerings. The son of Aaron who offers the blood of the peace offering and the fat shall have the right thigh as his portion. For I have taken the breast of the wave offering and thigh of the heave offering from the Israelites, from the sacrifices of their peace offerings. And I have given them to Aaron the priest and to his sons as their perpetual portion from the Israelites. This is the consecrated portion from the offerings by fire to the Lord that was designated for Aaron and his sons on the day he presented them to serve as priests to the Lord. The Lord commanded this to be given to the priests by the Israelites on the day that he anointed them. It is their portion perpetually through their generations. It is the law of the burnt offering, the grain offering, the sin offering, the guilt offering, the consecration ordination offering, and the sacrifice of peace offerings, which the Lord commanded Moses at Mount Sinai on the day he commanded the Israelites to present their offerings to the Lord in the wilderness of Sinai. Oh, what is A? Where's A at? Oh, cut off from. Oh. Dang, you get executed? Okay, well, it says or. It's yeah. Banishment or execution. It must be serious then. Oh, wait, it is. Alright, yep. Anyway. Alright. The consecration of Aaron and his sons. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Take Aaron and his sons with him, and the garments which are symbols of their office, and the anointing oil, and the bull for the sin offering, and the 2 rams, and the basket of unleavened bread, and assemble the entire congregation at the doorway of the tent of meeting. Moses did as the Lord commanded him, and the congregation was assembled at the doorway of the tent of meeting. Moses said to the congregation, This is what the Lord has commanded us to do. Then Moses brought Aaron and his sons and washed them with water. He put the undertunic on Aaron, tied the sash around him, clothed him in the robe, and put the ephod as an upper vestment on him. He tied the skillfully woven band of the ephod around him, with which he secured it to Aaron. Moses then put the breastpiece on Aaron, and he put in the breastpiece the Urim and the Thummim, the sacred articles the high priest used when seeking God's will concerning the nation. He also put the turban on Aaron's head, and on it, in front, Moses placed the golden plate, the holy crown, just as the Lord had commanded him. Then Moses took the anointing oil and anointed the tabernacle and all that was in it, and consecrated them. He sprinkled some of the oil on the altar 7 times, and anointed the altar and all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, to consecrate them. Then he poured some of the anointing oil on Aaron's head, and anointed him to consecrate him. Next, Moses brought Aaron's sons forward, putting undertunics on them, belted them with sashes, and bound caps on them, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then he brought the bull for the sin offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the bull. Next, Moses killed it and took the blood and with his finger put some of it around on the horns of the altar and purified it from sin. Then he poured out the rest of the blood at the base of the altar and consecrated it to make an atonement for it. He took all the fat that was on the entrails and the lobe of the liver and the 2 kidneys with their fat, and Moses offered them up in smoke on the altar. But the bull, the sin offering, and its hide, its meat, and its refuse, he burned in the fire outside the camp, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. He brought the ram for the sin offering, for the burnt offering. That doesn't say sin. What did I talk about? Anyway, for the burnt offering, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. Moses killed it and sprinkled the blood around on the altar. When he had cut the ram into pieces, Moses offered up the head, the pieces, and the fat in smoke. After he had washed the entrails and the legs in water, Moses offered up the whole ram in smoke on the altar. It was a burnt offering for a sweet and soothing aroma, an offering by fire to the Lord, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Then he brought the second ram, the ram of consecration, ordination, and Aaron and his sons laid their hands on the head of the ram. Moses killed it and took some of its blood and put it on the lobe of Aaron's right ear, and on the thumb of his right hand, and on the big toe of his right foot. He also brought Aaron's sons forward and put some of the blood on the lobes of their right ears, and the thumbs of their right hands, and the big toes of their right feet. And Moses sprinkled the rest of the blood around on the altar. He took the fat tail, and the fat that was on the entrails, the lobe of the liver, and the 2 kidneys, and their fat, and the right thigh, and from the basket of unleavened bread that was before the Lord, he took the unleavened cake, a cake of oiled bread, and 1 wafer, and put them on the fat and on the right thigh. And he put all these things in Aaron's hands and his sons' hands, and presented them as a wave offering before the Lord. Then Moses took these things from their hands and offered them up in smoke on the altar with the burnt offering. They were a consecration, ordination, offering for a sweet and soothing aroma, an offering by fire to the Lord. Moses also took the breast and presented it as a wave offering before the Lord. It was Moses' portion of the ram of consecration, ordination, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. So Moses took some of the anointing oil and some of the blood which was on the altar, and sprinkled it on Aaron and his garments, and also on his sons and their garments with him. So Moses consecrated Aaron and his garments, and his sons garments with him. Then Moses said to Aaron and his sons, "Boil the meat at the doorway of the tent of meeting, and eat it there together with the bread that is in the basket of consecration, ordination offering, just as I commanded, saying, Aaron and his sons shall eat it, and whatever remains of the meat and of the bread you shall burn it in the fire. You shall not go outside the doorway of the tent of meeting for 7 days, until the days of your consecration, ordination, are ended. For it will take 7 days to consecrate you, as he had, as has been done by this day, has been done this day. So the Lord has commanded to do for your atonement. You shall remain day and night for 7 days at the doorway of the tent of meeting, doing whatever the Lord has required you to do, so that you will not die. For so I, Moses, have been commanded. So Aaron and his sons did all the things which the Lord had commanded through Moses. Alright, it's your turn, Aaron. It's his turn now. Now think about it. Moses has been doing everything. Aaron offers sacrifices. And it happened on the 8th day that Moses called Aaron and his sons and the elders of Israel. And he said to Aaron, take a bull calf as a sin offering and a ram as a burnt offering, each without blemish, and offer both before the Lord. Then say to the Israelites, take a male goat as a sin offering, and a calf as a lamb, both 1 year old, without blemish, as a burnt offering, and a bull and a ram as a peace offering to sacrifice before the Lord, and a grain offering mixed with olive oil. For today the Lord will appear to you. So they took what Moses had commanded to the front of the tent of meeting, and all the congregation approached and stood before the Lord. Moses said, This is the thing which the Lord has commanded you to do, so that the glory of the Lord may appear to you. Moses said to Aaron, approach the altar and present your sin offering and your burnt offering, and make atonement for yourself and for the people, and present this offering of the people and make atonement for them, just as the Lord has commanded. So Aaron approached the altar and killed the calf as the sin offering, which he was designated for himself. The sons of Aaron presented the blood to him. He dipped his finger in the blood and put some of it on the horns of the altar, and poured the rest of the blood at the altar's base. But the fat, the kidneys, and the lobe of the liver from the sin offering he offered up in smoke on the altar, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. And Aaron burned the meat and the hide in the fire camp outside. Then he killed the burnt offering, and Aaron's sons handed the blood to him, and he sprinkled it around on the altar. And he brought the sin offering to him piece by piece with the head, and Aaron offered them up in smoke on the altar. He also washed the entrail and the legs and offered them up in smoke with the burnt offering on the altar. Oh gosh, way too fast. Then Aaron presented the people's offering. He took the goat for the sin offering of the people, and killed it and offered it for sin, as he did at the first. He also presented the burnt offering and offered it according to the ordinance. Next, Aaron presented the grain offering and took a handful of it and offered it up in smoke on the altar, in addition to the burnt offering of the morning. He also killed the bull and the ram, the sacrifice of peace offerings, which was for the people. And Aaron's sons handed the blood to him, and he sprinkled it around on the altar. As for the portions of fat from the bull and from the ram, the fat tail and the fat covering, the internal organs, and the kidneys and the lobe of the liver, they now put the portions of fat on the breasts, and Aaron offered the fat up in smoke on the altar. But the breasts and the right thigh Aaron presented as a wave offering before the Lord, just as Moses had commanded him. Then Aaron lifted his hands toward the people and blessed them, and came down from the altar of burnt offering. After presenting the sin offering, the burnt offering, and the peace offerings, Moses and Aaron went into the tent of meeting, and when they came out, they blessed the people in the glory and brilliance of the Lord. The Shekinah cloud appeared to all the people as promised. Then fire came out from before the Lord and consumed the burnt offering and the portions of fat on the altar. And when all the people saw it, they shouted and fell face downward in awe and worship. Oh my gosh, we were doing good. How? We were doing good. How? What? Okay, whatever. Maybe it won't be that bad. And again, sin is sin, but maybe they'll repent, right? Like they'll come to Moses about it, or Aaron. Now, Nadab and Abihu, the sons of Aaron, took their respective ceremonial censers, put fire in them, placed incense on it, and offered strange, unauthorized, unacceptable fire before the Lord, an act which he had not commanded them to do. And fire came out from the presence of the Lord and devoured them, and they died. Dang! Oh, well, it wasn't even smart for them to do that in the first place. Whatever. All right. But hey, I don't know how to feel, but I don't know. All I have to say is Aaron is their fault. They should have known. I'm playing. Then Moses said to Aaron, "This is what the Lord has said. What the Lord said. I will be treated as holy by those who approach me, and before all the people I will be honored." So Aaron, shocked, therefore said nothing. Moses called Mishael and Elzaphan, the sons of Uzziel, who was Aaron's uncle, and said to them, "Come here. Carry your relatives away from the front of the sanctuary and take them outside the camp." So they came forward and carried them, still in their under tunics, outside the camp, as Moses had said. Then Moses said to Aaron and to his younger sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Do not uncover your heads, nor let your hair hang loose, nor let your clothes as expressions of mourning, so that you will not die also, and so that he will not express his wrath and anger towards all the congregation. But your relatives, the whole house of Israel, may mourn the burning which the Lord has brought about. You shall not even go out of the doorway of the tent of meeting, or you will die, for the Lord's anointing oil is upon you." So they did everything according to the word of Moses. Then the Lord spoke to Aaron, saying, "Do not drink wine or intoxicating drink, neither you nor your sons with you, when you come into the tent of meeting, so that you will not die. It is a permanent statute throughout your generations, and to make a distinction and recognize a difference between the holy sacred and the common profane, and between the ceremonially unclean and the clean. And you are to teach the Israelites all the statutes which the Lord has spoken to them through Moses." Then Moses said to Aaron and to his surviving sons, Eleazar and Ithamar, "Take the grain offering that is left over from the offerings by the fire to the Lord, and eat it unleavened beside the altar, for it is most holy. You shall eat it in a holy place, because it is your portion and your son's portion. For from the offerings by fire to the Lord. For so I have been commanded. But the breast of the wave offering and the thigh of the heave offering you may eat in a clean place, you and your sons and daughters with you. From or well, for the beast, for the breast and the what's happening? For the breast and the thigh are your portion, and your son's portion, given out from of the sacrifices of the peace offerings of the Israelites. They shall bring the thigh presented by lifting up, and the breast and lifting up, and the breast presented by waving, along with the offerings by fire of the fat, to present as a wave offering before the Lord. This shall be yours and your sons with you, as your perpetual portion, just as the Lord had commanded. But Moses diligently tried to find the goat that had been offered as the sin offering, and discovered that it had been burned up as waste, not eaten. So he was angry with Aaron's surviving sons and Eleazar and Ithamar, saying, "Why did you not eat the sin offering in the holy place? For it is most holy, and God gave it to you to remove the guilt of the congregation, to make an atonement for them before the Lord. Behold, its blood was not brought in the holy place. You certainly should have eaten the goat in the sanctuary, just as I commanded." Then Aaron said to Moses, "This very day they have obediently presented their sin offering and burnt their offering before the Lord. But such terrible things as these have happened to me and to them. If I and my sons had eaten a sin offering today, would it have been acceptable and pleasing in the sight of the Lord?" When Moses heard that, it made sense to him. He was satisfied. Alright. Laws about animals for food. The Lord spoke again to Moses and Aaron, saying to them, "Speak to the children of Israel, saying, among all the animals which are on the earth, these are the animals which you may eat. You may eat any animal that has a divided hoof, that is, a hoof split in two parts, especially at its distal extremity, and choose the cud. Nevertheless, you are not to eat these among those which chew the cud or divide the hoof. The camel, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, is ceremonially unclean to you. And the shafan, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. And the hare, because it chews the cud but does not divide the hoof, it is unclean to you. And the swan, because it divides the hoof and makes a split hoof, but does not chew the cud, it is unclean to you. You shall not eat their meat nor touch their carcasses, they are unclean to you. These you may eat, whatever is in the water, whatever has fins and scales in the waters, in the sea, and in the seas and in the rivers, these you may eat. But whatever does not have fins and scales in the seas and in the rivers, of all the teeming life in the waters, and of all the living creatures that are in the waters, they are to be considered detestable to you. They shall be hated things to you. You may not eat their meat. You shall detest their carcasses. Everything in the water that does not have fins and scales is detestable to you. Avoid the unclean. These you shall detest among the birds. They are not to be eaten, for they are hated things. The eagle and the vulture and the buzzard, the kite, every kind of falcon, every kind of raven, the ostrich, the nighthawk, the seagull, every species of hawk, the little owl and the cormorant and the great owl, the white owl, the pelican, the carrion vulture, the stork, all kinds of heron. The hopo, that's a what? That's a bird. The hopo and the bat. All winged insects that walk on all fours are detestable to you. Yet of all winged insects that walk on all fours, you may eat those which have legs above their feet, with which to leap, which to leap on the ground. Of these you may eat the whole. Of these you may eat the whole species of migratory locusts, of bald locusts, of cricket, and of grasshopper. But all other winged insects which are four-footed are detestable to you. By contact with these, you will become unclean. Whoever touches their carcasses becomes unclean until the evening, dusk. And whoever picks up any of their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Concerning all the animals which divide the hoof, but do not have a split hoof, or which do not chew the cud, they are unclean to you. Whoever touches them becomes clean. Also, all animals that walk on their paws, among all kinds of animals that walk on four legs, are unclean to you. Whoever touches their carcasses becomes unclean until the evening. And the one who picks up even if he picks up their carcasses shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. They are unclean to you. These also are unclean to you among the swarming things that crawl around on the ground and multiply profusely. The mole, the mouse, and any kind of great lizard, the gecko, the crocodile, the lizard, the sand reptile, and the chameleon. These creatures are unclean to you among all that swarm. Whoever touches them when they are dead becomes unclean until evening. Also, anything on which one of them falls after dying becomes unclean, whether it is an article of wood or clothing, or a skin, or a sack, any article that is used, it must be put in water, and will be unclean until the evening. Then it becomes clean. As for any earthenware container in which any of these crawling things falls, whatever is in it becomes unclean, and you shall break the container. Any of the food which may be eaten, but on which unclean water falls, shall become unclean, and any liquid that may be drunk in every container shall become unclean. Everything that part of their carcass falls on becomes unclean. An oven. I don't. Okay, never mind. That says oven. I was waiting for. Yeah. An oven or a small stove shall be smashed. They are unclean, and shall be unclean to you. Nevertheless, a spring or a cistern reservoir collecting water shall be clean. But whoever touches one of these carcasses shall be unclean. If a man, if a bro, that does not seem whatever. If a part of their carcass falls on any seed for sowing which is to be sown, it is unclean. It is clean. But if water is put on the seed and a part of their carcass falls on it, it is unclean to you. If one of the animals that you may eat dies of natural causes, whoever touches its carcass becomes unclean until the evening, and whoever eats some of its meat shall wash his clothes and be unclean until evening. Also, whoever picks up its carcass shall wash his clothes and be unclean until the evening. Now, everything that swarms on the ground is detestable. It is not to be eaten. Whatever crawls on its belly, and whatever walks on all fours, and whatever has many feet among all things that swarm on the ground, you shall not eat, for they are detestable. Do not make yourselves loathsome, impure, repulsive, by eating any swarming thing. You shall not make yourselves unclean by them, so also to defile yourselves. For I am the Lord your God. So consecrate yourselves and be holy, for I am holy. You shall not make yourselves unclean with any of the swarming things that swarm or crawl on the ground. For I am the Lord who brought you from the land of Egypt to be your God. Therefore, you shall be holy, for I am holy. This is the law regarding the animal and the bird and every living thing that moves in the waters and everything that swarms on the earth, to make distinction between the ceremonially unclean and the ceremonially clean, and between the animal that may be eaten and the animal that may not be eaten. All right. Also, I'm just looking at this A, and it's like I just see words that I've never seen before. But yeah, this was good. The longest one that we've read was the last one. 47 verses. Yeah, cool. All right. God bless.